Okay, this part, we need to make another setup. So if I go into new feature, I'm going to tell it I want to do a setup, and I'll hit OK. Now the setup's going to be based off of this one. I need to flip my Z, so I tell my Z I want to flip. I want to rotate my X, because now my X-axis will be going, doesn't really matter if it goes this way or that way, but it needs to go across this way, not this way, because we're going to rotate this in the vise 90 degrees. And for the top of my part, I need to offset my Z 0.1875 to have it come up to the top, like that. So basically what I did is I clicked my Z to flip it, I rotated my X one time, and I typed in the Z offset 0.1875, and I'll hit OK. So now I have a new setup right there. This setup can be the same fixture offset as the first one because I know I'm going to be doing the rotate or switching it. So under setup 2, if I double click it, you'll see it tells me a fixture ID 55. I want to make that 54 and just leave it the same as my original one so it doesn't accidentally, when I post out the code, do extra stuff. I'm going to unchoose setup 1 for now. And when you post this, you'll uncheck setup 2, you'll do setup 1, you'll post out the code for that one. Then you'll uncheck this one and check setup 2 and post out the code for the other side. So under setup 2, I'm going to do a new feature. And I'm basically going to be programming this almost the same way I did the other side, except for I don't need the holes. So I'm going to tell it I want to do a side. I'm going to say OK. My boundary, I don't have, so I'm going to say select edges. The plane will be this plane, and my edges will be here. I'll rotate it around and here. The bottom is already chosen because I have that. I'll need to check top and pick my stock. And you'll see here I need to flip this to the other side. Alright, so that all looks good. I'll hit OK. Now I need to make sure the tool is right. So if I go into my results, you'll see it's using that 2-inch tool again, which I don't want. I can copy that tool. If I choose setup 1 and check it, see all this 1/2 inch here? I could take this tool, choose this line, hold down Control and choose these two. And if I pick all of them, the first tool that's in there, I can override these two. So I can right click here and say override tool with 1/2 inch end mill and accept it. And you'll see now that it updates it to that new tool without having to go through and do all the editing in here. So go back to my model, and now I want to side mill these two shapes. So I'll do a new feature. I'm going to do side again. I'm going to hit OK. I actually don't have, or actually have a sketch in this case, so I can use boundary, and I can pick this sketch. My bottom is going to be this face here, and my top is going to be this face here. And see how it rotates the axis there? And I'm getting it to cut the outside shape on that. One thing I do want it to do is I want this to go a little bit further down on the bottom. So on the bottom, I'm going to tell it 0.005. I don't want to go more than that because I'm going to put this in a vise up on 10,000 shims. So by doing it 5, it should stay 5 off of the vise. And you got to be really careful when you're touching all this stuff off so you don't cut into your vise. And I'll hit OK. Now I can do that with the same tool that I did these with. So if I go into my results, I just want to see what it shows. You'll see it shows a 2-inch mill again. So I can choose this tool here, hold down Control and choose these two. And I can right click and say override with 1/2 inch. Yes. So now it's doing all of those, all with the 1/2 inch tool. Go back to my model, and I'm going to uncheck setup 2 and play setup 1. So I get setup 1 done. And then up on my bar here, I'm going to say set as starting point. So now it saves that simulated result. And I'll uncheck setup 1 and check setup 2. And now when I play it, it will play it against the previous setup. I'm going to rotate this a little, and I'll single step it. So it comes down with the first tool, mills off that flat, goes across, mills off the other side. It should come and finish it. And then it's going to come over here and finish this side. Now it's going to come in, plunge off the part, mill the edge, come up, come down on the other side, mill the edge, and then we'll need to finish it. So it's going to finish that side, and then finish this side. And there you have the finished part. So again, you need to make sure that you post only one setup at a time. So when you click setup 1, you would run the post processor. You'd get the code for it. You'd turn off setup 1 and you would check setup 2 and you'd post it with a different number for the other side. But when it's all together, you'll see you get a nice verification of exactly what you would want. So that's it for part number 5.